Welcome to Recap World, where today the intricate tapestry of London is unraveled in an exhaustive chronological retelling of every major scandal, secret, and social maneuver that has defined the Bridgerton era. Before embarking upon the foundational history of the Queen, it is necessary to recall the definitive resolution of the first social chapter, the union of Daphne Bridgerton and Simon Basset, the Duke of Hastings. After a tumultuous fake courtship that evolved into a genuine, albeit conflict-ridden, marriage, the couple eventually navigated the Duke's traumatic refusal to sire an heir. The first chapter concluded with the birth of their son, August Augie Basset, securing the Hastings line and setting the stage for the family's continued dominance in high society. The spin-off, Queen Charlotte: The Journey of the Bridgerton Universe, begins in 1761, a year that forever altered the racial and social landscape of the British Empire. The narrative opens in Miro, Germany, where a young Charlotte of Mecklenburg-Strelitz is informed by her brother, Adolphus, that she is to marry King George III of Great Britain. Despite her initial resistance and a daring attempt to escape over the palace garden wall, Charlotte is intercepted by a young man who introduces himself not as a monarch, but as just George. His charm and apparent normalcy persuade Charlotte to proceed with the wedding, unaware of the complexities awaiting her in the English court. Upon Charlotte's arrival, the king's mother, Princess Augusta, and her advisors recognize the social implications of the queen's heritage. To ensure the stability of the monarchy and create a unified upper class, Augusta initiates the Great Experiment, a policy that grants titles, land, and social standing to prominent families of color. Among those elevated are Agatha Danbury and her husband, who are granted the titles of Lord and Lady Danbury and are invited to the royal wedding as part of the Queen's inner circle. The early days of the marriage are marked by a perplexing separation. George installs Charlotte at Buckingham House but insists on living separately at Kew Palace, a decision that leaves the new queen in profound isolation. This period of seclusion is defined by the Queen's growing friendship with Lady Danbury, who becomes her confidant and social guide. It is during these interactions that Charlotte discovers her own ignorance of the marital act, as she had not been educated on the mechanics of procreation. Lady Danbury provides the Queen with the necessary explanations, which eventually leads Charlotte to confront George and demand a more traditional marital relationship. The king's distance is eventually revealed to be a defensive measure against his declining mental health. George suffers from manic episodes and visions, which he attempts to suppress through the brutal and agonizing treatments of Dr. Monroe. Charlotte discovers her husband in a state of distress and, rather than retreating, chooses to support him, dismissing Dr. Monroe and asserting her place as his partner and queen. The couple reconciles, agreeing to meet on even days to ensure the conception of an heir. The 1761 timeline concludes with the birth of George IV and the solidification of the Danbury family's standing, though the death of Lord Danbury during an intimate encounter leaves Agatha to navigate the complexities of widowhood and social survival on her own terms. Season 1, the narrative shifts forward to 1813, the year Daphne Bridgerton, the fourth sibling and eldest daughter, makes her debut in London high society. At her presentation to the Queen, Daphne is praised as flawless, a designation that prompts Lady Whistledown to name her the incomparable of the season. This high praise initially suggests an easy path to a successful match, but the protective and often overbearing oversight of her eldest brother Anthony, the Viscount Bridgerton, begins to drive away potential suitors. The return of the Duke and the strategic alliance simultaneously. Simon Basset, the Duke of Hastings, returns to London following the death of his father. Simon, haunted by the memory of his father's abuse and determined to let the Hastings line die with him, has no intention of marrying. After a chance encounter at a ball, Daphne and Simon devise a plan to fake a courtship. This ruse is designed to increase Daphne's desirability by making it appear she has captured the interest of a duke, while simultaneously shielding Simon from the persistent efforts of marriage-minded mothers. As the fake relationship progresses, Daphne attracts the attention of Prince Friedrich of Prussia, the Queen's nephew. The prince is a kind and eligible suitor, and his presence forces Simon to confront his growing genuine feelings for Daphne. However, Simon remains steadfast in his refusal to marry, believing his inability to provide children a vow he made to his dying father makes him an unsuitable match for Daphne, who desires a large family. The situation reaches a critical juncture at a garden party, where Lord Berbrook, a suitor Anthony had originally approved, attempts to compromise Daphne in a secluded area known as the Dark Walk. Daphne defends herself by punching Berbrook, an act witnessed by Simon. Berbrook retaliates by obtaining a marriage license and threatening to ruin Daphne's reputation if she does not marry him. The Bridgerton family manages to neutralize Berbrook by uncovering his scandalous history, specifically his abandonment of a child sired with a servant, and ensuring the news is published by Lady Whistledown. The tension between Simon and Daphne culminates at a later ball, where they are discovered in a compromising embrace in a garden maze by Anthony. Anthony, bound by the social codes of the time, demands that Simon marry Daphne to preserve her honor. When Simon refuses, Anthony challenges him to a duel. Daphne intervenes in the duel just as the men are about to fire, declaring that she will marry Simon even after he repeats his claim that he cannot have children. The wedding of Simon and Daphne is followed by a honeymoon at Clivedon Castle, which begins with a period of intense physical passion. However, the marriage is soon strained by Daphne's discovery that Simon's refusal to have children is not a physical limitation, but a deliberate choice. This realization leads to a significant conflict regarding consent and honesty in their relationship. The rift is further widened by the ongoing scandal involving Marina Thompson, a ward of the Featheringtons who has been revealed to be pregnant out of wedlock. The season concludes with a grand ball at Hastings House, where Daphne and Simon finally reconcile. After learning about Simon's traumatic childhood and his father's cruelty, Daphne chooses to fight for their marriage. Simon, in turn, decides to abandon his vow and embrace a future with Daphne. The narrative of 1813 ends with the birth of their son, Augie, and the revelation that Lady Whistledown is, in fact, Penelope Featherington. Season 2. The narrative moves into 1814, focusing on Anthony Bridgerton's search for a wife. Following the resolution of his sister's marriage, Anthony determines that it is his duty as Viscount to find a suitable Viscountess. Haunted by the sudden death of his father, Edmund, and the devastating impact it had on his mother, Violet, Anthony vows to find a wife he does not love, believing this will spare both of them from future grief. The social season is energized by the arrival of Lady Mary Sharma and her two daughters, Kate and Edwina. Sponsored by Lady Danbury, the Sharmas have returned from India to find a husband for Edwina, who is named the Diamond of the Season by Queen Charlotte. Anthony quickly identifies Edwina as the ideal candidate for his clinical requirements. However, his pursuit of Edwina is thwarted by Kate, who overhears Anthony's cold assessment of marriage and decides that he is an unworthy match for her sister. The conflict between Anthony and Kate intensifies during a family gathering at the Bridgerton country estate, Aubrey Hall. A spirited game of Pall Mall highlights the competitive and fiery nature of their relationship. Despite their mutual antagonism, a series of intimate moments, including a shared hunting trip and the traumatic bee sting in the garden, reveal a deep and undeniable attraction. Anthony's panic during the bee sting incident, rooted in his father's death, leads to a near kiss that is interrupted by their social obligations. Despite his feelings for Kate, Anthony proceeds with his proposal to Edwina, feeling bound by his duty to the Bridgerton name. The wedding is hosted by the Queen, but it collapses during the ceremony. When Kate drops her bracelet at the altar, Anthony's reaction makes his love for her obvious to everyone present, including Edwina. Edwina flees the church, eventually calling off the wedding and forcing the families to confront the resulting scandal. In the aftermath of the failed wedding, both the Bridgertons and the Sharmas are socially ostracized. Anthony and Kate eventually confess their love and share a night together in a garden gazebo. The following morning, Kate is seriously injured in a horse-riding accident during a storm. Anthony, overcome with guilt and fear, is forced to admit his love for her. Upon Kate's recovery, she initially plans to return to India, but Anthony's passionate confession leads her to stay. The 1814 season concludes their marriage and the public restoration of their reputation by the Queen during the Featherington Ball. The spin-off. Queen Charlotte. Between the events of the second and third seasons, the narrative revisits the royal family during a period of crisis. The death of Princess Charlotte of Wales, the only legitimate heir to the throne, triggers a succession emergency. Queen Charlotte, realizing that her 13 children have produced only illegitimate offspring, pressures them to marry and produce a royal heir. The Queen organizes a series of matches for her sons and daughters, a process that is documented with skepticism by Lady Whistledown. Simultaneously, Violet Bridgerton and Lady Danbury navigate their own history. Violet begins to suspect that Lady Danbury had a brief affair with Violet's father, Lord Ledger, many years ago. This suspicion creates tension between the two friends, though they ultimately find common ground in their shared experiences as widows and matriarchs. The crisis of the crown is eventually resolved when the news arrives that Prince Edward and his wife are pregnant with the future Queen Victoria. Season 3, the narrative moves into 1815, where the central plot revolves around Colin Bridgerton and Penelope Featherington. After traveling extensively, Colin returns to London with a newly acquired suave persona, while Penelope has decided to distance herself from him after overhearing his disparaging comments the previous year. Penelope, determined to find a husband to escape her mother's control, decides to overhaul her image and seek independence. Colin, seeking to mend their friendship, offers to mentor her in the art of social charm. This arrangement backfires when Colin begins to realize that his feelings for Penelope are no longer platonic. Penelope successfully attracts the attention of Lord Debling, a wealthy and practical man who is interested in her for her intellect and character. As Lord Debling prepares to propose, Colin's jealousy and love become impossible to ignore. He interrupts their dance at a ball, prompting Debling to realize that Penelope is in love with Colin. Debling withdraws his pursuit, leaving Penelope devastated. Following the ball, Colin follows Penelope to her carriage, where they share a passionate encounter and he proposes marriage. The engagement is met with joy by the Bridgerton family, but it is shadowed by Penelope's secret identity. Eloise, who remains estranged from Penelope, demands that she tell Colin the truth before the wedding. The situation is further complicated by Cressida Cowper, who attempts to claim the Queen's reward for identifying Lady Whistledown by falsely confessing to be the author. Penelope is forced to write a final issue of Whistledown to expose Cressida's lie and protect the Bridgertons. Colin follows her to the printer and discovers the truth, leading to a deep rift in their relationship. They proceed with the marriage, but the wedding breakfast is interrupted by the Queen, who announces that she knows Whistledown is a member of the Bridgerton household and demands a confession. Cressida Cowper discovers Penelope's identity through her own investigations and attempts to blackmail her for £10,000. Penelope, realizing she can no longer hide, decides to take control of her narrative. She organizes a reveal during a ball hosted by her sisters Prudence and Philippa. In a dramatic speech to the Queen and the assembled ton, Penelope admits to being Lady Whistledown, explaining that she used the column to find a voice when society would not give her one. The Queen, moved by Penelope's honesty and her position as a Bridgerton, grants her mercy. Colin, having witnessed Penelope's courage, reconciles with her and expresses his pride in her accomplishments. The 1815 season concludes with a flash forward showing Colin and Penelope as parents to a son, the new heir to the Featherington estate, and both enjoying successful careers as authors. Throughout these 3 seasons, several other members of the Bridgerton family and their associates navigate their own significant life events. The narrative arc of the Bridgerton dynasty and the royal court of Queen Charlotte is a continuous story of evolution, from the birth of a new social order in 1761 to the public triumph of a wallflower in 1815. Each season and each marriage has served to redefine the boundaries of what is possible within the London ton, ensuring that the legacy of the Bridgerton family remains central to the history of high society. That brings us to the end of our exhaustive journey through the Bridgerton timeline. We have covered every major scandal, secret, and success that has defined this era, the grand ballrooms of the 19th. We have covered every major scandal, secret, and success that has defined this era. If you found this chronological deep dive as fascinating as the latest issue of Lady Whistledown, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more complete story recaps. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you're most excited to see next. And leave a comment below letting us know which Bridgerton sibling story you're most excited to see next. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.